All right, guys. So the reason today's training is actually super important. So I know yesterday I moved it. I'm sure we would have probably had a lot more people on this call, but I know I moved it yesterday. So for those of you any inconvenience, I apologize. I was just really really sick. Uh, but this is I wanted to make sure I'm recording this because this is important because it's gonna change. There's gonna be some additional documentation you're gonna have to do now, and it's very important because it has to do with your commission and how you're getting paid on your closings. One thing that you have to remember is that the as is contract is between a buyer and a seller. And yeah, at the end on the final page, you put who the listing agent is and who the buyer's agent is. But that contract says nothing nowhere about commissions. Okay. It has no verbiage talking about compensation. Compensation has always been because of the MLS, and because we're members of the MLS, and you put a commission on there on the MLS, and that's what you're gonna get paid. So now that there's no commission on the MLS, or that's changes about to come on the 17th, there's not gonna be any commission anywhere. It's very important to know that there's going to be some documents that you need to know to have to like guarantee your commission. Otherwise, nothing on the as-is contract says that you're going to be paying a commission. A lot of people, probably you could probably put in the additional terms and it's fine, but it's really not the proper way to do that. So there's some forms that got released. Okay. So we're gonna go over those forms today, and they're very simple. And then I'm gonna do videos individually on how to fill them out. So we're not gonna go so in depth into those, but I want to just give you an idea. And again, they're not they're 1-page document, 2-page documents. They're nothing out of this world. It's like a referral agreement or a commission agreement. If you guys have seen those, they're 1 page, and it's very simple to fill out. So I wanted to jump in right away into the new listing agreement. Okay. So we're gonna go over the new listing agreement today. We're gonna go over these 2 compensation agreements, and we'll jump a little bit into the buyer brokerage agreement, and then we'll go over questions, whatever you guys have. Um, but let's go. By the way, hold on. There's who's on this call? Is Angelo on the call? No, I don't think so. No, it's okay. All right. So the listing agreement, guys, has not changed on the first few pages. It's all the same. However, on the 3rd page where it talks about compensation, this top part has not changed. It's pretty much the same thing as it's always been. The part that now has changed is when you go here to the bottom, it starts talking about commission to a buyer's agent, and it starts getting very specific. So right away, you can see that it says here in bold, brokerage commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable, which they've always been, but now we're being super clear about it. It's always been negotiable. You've never had to pay a certain commission. Nothing. Commissions were never set by law, but everything is being super specific now. No, and then there's this notice to seller regarding buyer's brokers. This is new. Again, it's always been like this, but they're just being very specific about it. Okay, the buyer's broker, even if compensated by seller or broker, will provide services for the buyer. Seller is advised and is aware that seller may, but is not required to, compensate a buyer's broker upon closing. Seller may choose to enter into a separate rent agreement to pay buyer's broker, or may approve broker to pay buyer's broker in accordance with paragraph 10, which we'll get to paragraph 10. But that's pretty much it. It's just being very clear, super clear to a seller that there is no, like, that you don't have to pay a commission, and then that they're negotiable. Okay, that's just it. Which again, none of that that's always been that way. Okay, over here now, this looks a little familiar of what we used to have, but it's slightly different. So we're gonna see what best practice is on this. Um, and my initial thoughts is that the first option here is gonna be our best option. So what is this? Compensation to buyer's broker. Okay. compensation to buyer's broker. So remember in our old listing agreement, we have the same section, but here it's a little different. It says seller authorizes broker to offer compensation to buyer's broker in the amount of whatever percentage, okay? This compensation will be set for in a separate written agreement between broker and buyer's broker, okay? And then this one, the option B, same thing. We're going to offer a compensation in the amount of blank percentage. This compensation will be set for in a separate written agreement between seller and buyer's broker. So, in my opinion, like the way it's, which by the way, this is the way it should have, it's always kind of been, is option A. This is still technically how it should be. Plus, I don't see, if I'm representing the seller, I don't know. I don't like, I'm always protective of my sellers. I don't like my seller having something signed with the buyer's agent. Like, I don't even like that interaction. Like how, I don't even want them to have each other's emails. Okay. So I prefer option A. Again, in the future, we might come to realize, oh, well, option B is better for some reason. I don't know. These are things that we're going to start practicing this now. But all it is, okay, option A is just, we are going to pay a commission. All right, so there's a compensation to the buyer's broker, and we could put here whatever. Let's say it's 2.5% of the purchase price or blank. This amount will be paid from broker, so the listing agent broker compensation agreement paragraph 8. This compensation will be set for in a separate agreement between broker and buyer's broker, which that's the document that we're now going to have because the MLS no longer guarantees our commission. We're gonna have that agreement signed, and then obviously you have a third option here, which again they want to be very clear to a seller that having no compensation is viable, that they can do that. Hold on, guys, I didn't get my charger. Oh no, I'm gonna lose my mic. 1 second. I heard that. No, let's not play with it. 1 second. Did you guys take my charger? Did you guys take my laptop? Yeah, I need a USB-C charger. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to. I gotta plug up my laptop. I was setting things up. Oh no, it's right here. I had it right here. Sorry about that. Can you guys still hear me good? Anybody? Can you hear me? Is it still good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Still good.
All right, perfect. All right, so any questions so far about this part of the listing agreement? I mean, what I see here is just, they're just trying to be very clear to a seller that you don't have to pay commission. It's all negotiable. It makes it very clear that the commission you would pay to a buyer's broker is for services provided to a buyer. Okay. But it's going to be our job to continue to talk to sellers and negotiate this, just like we always did. Just like we always did. What's up, brother? Just like we always did before. It's going to be our job to negotiate this with our clients. So I don't think anything changes. At least for me and majority of you guys, it shouldn't really change anything because we always explain that process. We always explain that this is our commission, and then this is the commission that is for a buyer's agent. That is something that I know majority of you, because that's the way I taught it to you guys. That's how you should be explaining that. So it's very, very clear. And in some cases, you guys would put that you get more commission than the buyer's agent and stuff like that, which is fine. But I know that you guys were explaining it. So it's the same thing. But now we're going to have to, when we're explaining with this, and when a seller's sitting in front of us reading this, they're gonna kind of see here, brokerage commissions are fully negotiable. Okay. But that we have to set that tone with, you know, our commission is, you know, the commission that for my services that I charge, they're fully negotiable. But we do a 6% commission. Yes, Liz, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I couldn't see your screen, but it's back now.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Thank you.
So yeah, so that's again, well, and I haven't sat down and done a listing agreement with this yet with a seller. So I haven't sat, and I don't know if anybody's already done this. I don't think so, because this is like, I think this came out like a couple of days ago. So unless somebody has done a listing presentation with already this new agreement, I'm not sure how sellers are reacting to it, how they kind of read it, what they think, what they say. But we're just saying the same thing. We're just saying the same thing, and then this is the option. My recommendation is always going to be to always offer compensation, because we don't want to find, like, I can find a buyer. You guys all know, you put a listing on the MLS, you're going to get offers, you're going to get random lowball offers. The point is not to find a buyer. The point is to find the absolute best buyer that's going to give the client the highest and best terms possible. And the way we can do that is if we offer some form of compensation, we're able to now go into a bigger pool of buyers. Okay. So that's my pitch. That's how I'm speaking that to clients. And it's always made sense before, you know. So I don't see why it wouldn't make sense now. That's just my opinion. Now on the MLS, we're not going to be able to put that we're offering commission. So it's a little different. That's gonna change. There's a field there. I'll try to show them to you now. There's a let me go into a listing real fast. So, and I already got somebody, one of you guys already asked me about this because you were putting up a listing. So this is also new when you're putting up a listing, guys, and this is going to be new on when you're representing buyers. You're going to see this. So this is important. And it's this section here that says seller to buyer incentives, and seller will consider seller to buyer incentives. And these are optional. You don't even have to put anything. You can leave them blank. So we put on this listing, yes, there are seller to buyer incentives. We're willing to give, because we're willing to give, I believe in this one, a 2% seller contribution. Okay, or essentially it's a commission. We're willing to give at least 2% as a commission, or if it could be a seller contribution towards the buyer's closing costs, but it's a commission. We left this blank. I was gonna put no. We could put probably no here, but it says seller will consider seller to buyer incentives included in offer to purchase. So we wanted to put no there, like, meaning we are offering what we're offering, and that's it. Like, you know, if you want to include additional things in your offer, we're not going to consider that. So we're only considering the 2%, and that's it. But this will be good. So if you see yes and yes here, it's a good thing. That means they are offering buyer a commission, essentially. Okay. And they're willing to negotiate that. So if you want to throw in, add, you know, if you want to add something to your commission, if you want to just kind of negotiate whatever it is, you can put that there. I would say everything's always negotiable, even if they put no. You could always try to negotiate, you know. But and because you might run into things here where it says no here, no here, but it doesn't mean you can't still send an offer, try to negotiate your commission, okay? But that means that essentially they're kind of not offering anything. Which again, I don't believe that that's the route most listing agents in the industry are going to go. But these are going to be the two fields for you to know. And that's the way I interpreted this. I interpreted this as yes and no, meaning, yes, we're offering something, but no, we're not negotiating that. Like, don't send me anything in your offer trying to negotiate what I'm offering. And that was it. Any questions about that? Because starting next week, guys, that's going to be what you're seeing. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
negotiable until what point? Or even till the very end, but still like. until
Yeah.
It's closed,
Yeah,
it's still.
yeah, commissions are fully negotiable, but there's an agreement that we're gonna go into next that's gonna show you like what the commission is gonna be. So I'm gonna get into that right now. Yeah, but you could always negotiate in the middle of a deal, the commission, that happens.
And as
Yeah.
far as the notes, you can't put anything like, when you're entering a listing, nonetheless, like as far as the remarks or anything there, you can't put any
No.
wording there because it'll get flagged.
Yep, yep, any wording of a commission on the remarks and all that stuff, it will get flagged. So so if your brokerage has a website, you're able to do it on your own listings. You can, if your website allows for that, you can put commissions on your own listings on the company website,
Not the MLS.
not the MLS. Yep, so. All right, somebody has a question, did one, but it's the same thing. Okay. Oh, so Gladys, so you already kind of did this same agreement that we're looking at already with with the new listing?
Yes.
And how did the seller react to this whole section? Did you get any, was it kind of similar, the process, I would assume?
Yeah, it was similar because, like you said, like since we were trained to technically be very open with the commission side, um, we negotiated, we went into terms, and then from there they signed, and I have the new listing. But I didn't have any pushback. I didn't have any bad feedback with the new contract.
Cool, cool. All right. That's good to know. And that's, I mean, the way a lot of these conversations go, I would imagine they continue to go the same. You might have a seller here and there that says, "Oh, I heard that I don't have to pay commission anymore," or something like that. Or, a lot of the headlines I remember just said no more 6%, no more 6% commission. So, it just depends to see what those people say when we run into them. But my first thing would be, well, if they told me, "Hey, I heard commissions are no more 6%," I would honestly probably say, "Well, listen, it's always been negotiable." And a lot of my listings, majority of them aren't at 6%. A lot of them are 5.5%, 5%, and then go from there and lock down a listing at 5.5% if I could. I would just run it like that. So, all right. So that's the listing agreement that's changed. Now this is going to be important. So this is the interesting part about this, guys, is that depending on which box of these gets checked, there's a different agreement that has to be done. So we're going to see how the industry goes. Again, I feel like option A is probably the option that everybody should go. I don't like option B because then I got to have an interaction between my seller and the buyer's agent, them signing an agreement. I don't know. I just hope that the industry as a whole just goes towards option A, and we're just always using the same agreement. But there's two depending on which one we choose. So I'm gonna go into the first one. So the way you look this up on Form Simplicity is search compensation. The minute you search compensation, these agreements will come up. Okay, so there's two. There's one that is from seller to buyer's broker and from seller's broker to buyer's broker. So this is the one that I'm hoping that most people will probably go and use. So I'm already thinking that we're probably gonna already send this with our offers. Okay. So I'm already feeling like we should probably be sending this with our offer. So it's pretty simple. Who's the listing agent? Who's the buyer's agent? Address. Buyer's name is optional, but it's fine. I mean, I guess it's optional in case you have multiple buyers and things like that. Or the contract is assignable. The term, it says I've left like 30, but I want to be clear about this final sentence here. It says the term will automatically extend through the date of the actual closing of the purchase agreement. Okay, so you could put here, maybe you put 45 days or something, the term of this commission agreement. But at the end, if you read through all this, the last sentence, it says the term will automatically extend through the date of the actual closing of the purchase agreement. So there's no need to extend this. You can modify it, but there's no need to extend it. It's just automatically gets extended for when if the closing date of the purchase agreement gets extended. Okay. Then the important part, the commission. Seller's broker will compensate buyer's broker as stated below. Okay. Of property of buyer identified above in paragraph 3 closes on the property, and buyer broker is the procuring cause of the sale of the property during the term. Okay. If no buyer is identified on paragraph 3, buyer's broker will be compensated at closing of property if buyer broker is the procuring cause of the, okay, so this is basically, if you're the procuring cause, you'll get paid. But at the end of the day, you probably want to put your buyer's name here. I mean, that's going to be the most common practice, is you're sending this with your offer. And then over here, you could put 3% of the gross purchase price of the property. Okay. Now, if I'm communicating with this agent and he tells me, oh, I'm paying 2.5, I'm paying 2, then, you know, at that point we can still try to negotiate that, but chances are it's tough negotiate. It's like it's always been tough. Like when an agent tells you on the MLS, I'm offering 2% commission, and we try to get 2.5, 3. It's always been tough. We was, you know, some of you guys have pulled it off. I've seen you guys do it, but it's tough because they could just say, no, this is what we're offering. This is it. Like, take it or leave it. And then they'll put us in a position where, hey, your client wants this property. Are you doing the best thing for your client, or are you just looking out for yourself and your commission? And at that point, we're kind of not looking out for our clients, because we're just trying to push our commission instead of pushing our client's offer. So here you could put 3% and or whatever you know at that moment, if you've communicated with the agent. If not, put 3% and let them come back and say, oh no, we're I'm only paying out 2.5. I'm only paying out 2%. Okay, cool. But I would initially probably send this with a 3%. Okay. Arbitration by initializing. This is just, again, this is kind of like our listing agreement. If there's any disputes or anything like that, you agree to do arbitration. And then some miscellaneous clauses. This agreement will be construed under Florida law. Brokers' commissions are not set by law and are fully commissionable. In no event will buyer's broker compensation exceed the amount of compensation in buyer broker's separate agreement with buyer. So that's important too. But in your buyer brokerage agreement, I will always put 3%. Again, we can change it later if need be, but I would put it in 3%. Okay. So this is very important, guys. So in no event will your commission exceed the amount of compensation that that you have in an agreement with the buyer. So it shouldn't most of the time. I mean, most of the times it's 3%, unless you have a broker offering 4%, which that doesn't happen very frequently. And in that case, guys, let's be 100% real. If you know somebody's offering 4%, we can talk to our client and we could try to have that conversation with them to say, hey, we're getting these people are offering a 4%. We're going to change that buyer's agreement. Maybe you tell your seller, maybe you tell your buyer, hey, I'm going to give you half of that extra percent or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you have to have a conversation about that with them to change it from 3 to 4. And that's very rare. That's very rare that's going to come up. But in this market, especially in our future condo market, you might start seeing 4% commissions. I wouldn't be surprised. All right. Any questions so far about this? Well, how are you guys feeling about this? What do you guys think? Give me your thoughts. Any feedback?
Vic, I have a quick question.
Okay, go for it.
So if we're on the buyer side and we send an offer, should we check on the addenda portion that this is a part of the contract?
Good question. Absolutely. Yes. On that other. So
Yeah.
there's always an option for other. And then you could put yes, other on the additional terms. Like, I know what you mean, like the boxes where it has all the addendums.
Right. We could put
Right.
other addendum, and then that way we cover ourselves too in case another
Absolutely.
agent says, you know.
Absolutely. I didn't think about that, but that is a great idea. So So guys, just so you know what David is speaking about, I'll show you right now. Oh, sorry. I want to show that to you guys because that's actually a good point, and I want people to see it. So on the as is contract, so if we go all the way to page 12, or 11. Or, well, here, page 11 now. So if we go here, we could put other. We could check this box other. And we can put compensation. Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely, yeah. Right there.
Yeah, we could put something like that. And that pretty much says that this is part of that. Now, if you have any additional ones, like let's say maybe there's another thing you need to include here, then you would have to write it here in the additional terms, you know? But if you just have one thing like this one that needs to be put, then yeah.
Thank you, Vic.
Yep, great question.
Victor, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I've been seeing videos and I don't know, maybe you can clarify when we're the buyer's agent. What, are there additional forms now moving forward that we have to make them sign before taking them to see a property?
Yep, absolutely. So we're gonna get into that next.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
So the compensation agreements between this is the one seller to the buyer's broker. This is the one that again I probably wouldn't want to sign, but again, it's because I gotta have my seller sign it and I have to have the buyer's broker sign it. And again, that I just don't like. In all my deals, I don't like that interaction between my client and the other realtor. Like I would prefer to avoid that. But we'll see how things go. Maybe people gravitate towards going more on this one, At the end of the day, it's it's the same thing at the end of the day, it really is. But I think the seller's broker to buyer's broker is what I would prefer to have, which is how the listing agreement always been. It's been that the listing agent makes a commission and they're splitting that commission with a buyer's agent. So using the seller's broker to buyer's broker compensation agreement just makes sense to me. All right. It'll still get paid at the closing the same way, It'll still get paid at the closing the same exact way. So it's not a problem. Any questions so far about this? So the listing agreement changed. And then we have these two compensation agreements. Any questions so far about this before we move forward to the next thing? Yep, the CABB one. CABB one. Seller's broker to buyer's broker. So it's just that's the compensation agreement. So once there's so I want to be clear, the as-is contract again mentions nothing about anybody getting paid a commission. So now that the MLS no longer guarantees our commission, you're gonna want this agreement signed. This agreement is the only thing now that guarantees you a commission. It's the only thing now that makes it so you get paid a commission. That document. Or you can make a custom one or whatever, but no longer does the MLS, just the fact that it says 3% on the MLS, that no longer guarantees your commission. That used to be it. But now we have to have an actual commission agreement. Same thing when we sell properties off market, guys. You guys have done off market deals. You do a commission agreement between that owner and yourselves and the brokerage, and that's what guarantees the commission. So we're kind of going to do the same thing moving forward. And this is effective August 17th. So you guys might as well start doing it, right away. You might as well get used to it. I would probably start sending it in your next offer. Even if the MLS says your compensation, throw this in there. Start getting accustomed to it. Okay. As customs change, as we start seeing how people are reacting to it and we're figuring out what the best practice is for this, I'll keep you guys updated and we'll do further training and seeing. But right now, that's the way that I've interpreted a lot of masterminds that I've been to and a lot of people that I've heard speak about it. And that to me is the simplest way. So Carlene, you asked about buyers. So let's shift to buyers. And we talked about this a month ago when we were preparing for this, probably a month and a half ago. And it's the buyer brokerage agreement. So moving forward, you're gonna have to do a buyer brokerage agreement before you show a property. Now, so a lot of people ask a lot of questions about this. Well, what if I'm doing an open house? What if I'm doing this? What if I'm doing that? How is this being policed? How is it being who's keeping up with this? And the reality is, as of right now, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. So for example, you know, it's 7 o'clock at night, you get a call, hey, I want to see your house. And it's like, all right, well, the house is, you know, let's meet me. I'm in a rush. I got to meet you there right now. I want to see it. If you go, it's 7 o'clock, you go to the house 7:30, it was late. You just put the kids you just fed the kids, you're tired, you got so much going on, you didn't have time to do the agreement. All of a sudden you show this client the house, they want it, they want to put an offer. Who's gonna say, oh, you didn't show that agreement? I have no clue. So, you know, you guys need to, to my knowledge, nobody, you know, nobody is gonna know that you did that. I highly doubt listing agents are gonna require that. That would be super tedious. And everybody would hate that you're required to provide that for showings. That's not gonna happen. That's just way too much. Even for listing agents themselves, like who's gonna, like, I wouldn't want to keep up with that. It's an extra job I have to do now. Imagine you have a listing and you're asking every time, oh, send me your buyer agreement so I can verify. No, nobody's gonna do that. So if what I'm trying to tell you is if you guys don't do it, who's going to necessarily like get you in trouble? Nobody really. I know different associations throughout the country are doing different things to monitor that, but as far as Miami Association, I haven't really heard anything. Again, I'm not telling you not to do it. I want you to do it, but I'm just saying, like, it's not being policed. It's not being, people aren't on top of it. Now, if you're gonna send an offer, yes, you're gonna have to need that, because at some point you're gonna have to provide that agreement showing what the compensation is. Because again, remember that compensation agreement that we just went over, it says that you cannot get paid more than what you have on a buyer's agreement compensation. So at some point during a transaction, you're gonna have to show that. Okay. It's gonna be interesting how that plays out. I don't know if that's something that I would assume the listing broker has to confirm it. So you're gonna have to provide that to a listing broker to confirm that at some point. Maybe not right at the beginning, but I definitely get it signed before you send an offer. So when you're sending if that's in that same scenario I just told you, if the client says, hey, I want to send an offer, I like this property, let's move forward, I would say, okay, great. So I'm going to send you a contract, and I'm also going to send you what's called a buyer brokerage agreement. That's going to tell you how I'm representing you in this agreement, in this in the purchase of this property, and beyond that, you know, because that buyer brokerage agreement really represents you can represent a buyer for longer than just for one property. So any questions about that so far? What I just said? Yep. Do you need to submit the brokerage agreement with the offer? I would say you don't have to, but I would say, yeah, at some point they're gonna want to see your commission. So it's probably gonna be, yeah, this is probably gonna be something that you might as well just send early on. I don't see it hurting. I don't see why you would wait. So you probably just send it right at the beginning. So you would send purchase contract, whatever addendums, you're gonna send your compensation agreement, and you're gonna send the buyer brokerage agreement as well. Okay.
Fighting for your commission, at what point?
Can I see a little bit down on it? Or-
At that point, probably right at that point. It's the same thing how we negotiate now. Sometimes we negotiate via emails, and sometimes we're negotiating via the phone before we even do any contract. So, you know, what were you saying? When do you
At
negotiate?
that point, yeah, it's like, go show my client the property. For them to fall in love with it. And
Right.
then it's gonna be a little more difficult for me to negotiate my commission. At that point, because they really like the house, or prior to that,
Okay, Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
The timing.
It's gonna be very similar. It's gonna be like, what are you offering in commission? And they'll tell you. And if you're trying to get more, it's gonna be tough. They're gonna be like, no, that's what we're offering, you know. But if it's a market where the seller's desperate, then yeah, maybe they'll give you offer more. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Trying to negotiate that beforehand, before you even show the property, could make it easier, because then once they know you want it, then they can throw at you, oh, well, what do you care more about, that your client gets it or your commission? So that's a good point. Negotiating even before your client sees it could give you an upper hand on that. Because once they know the client wants it, then I'm a listing agent, I'm gonna say, well, I know your client wants it, so you're gonna send the offer regardless.
Is that the
Yeah.
end of the agreement?
No, what are you trying to say?
I'm trying to see, is there a spot there where buyer thinks?
Right, yeah, so, all right, so in this agreement, guys, yes, nothing has changed. Retainer, you're always gonna put 0 here. I mean, I don't know. Guys, buyers are probably not gonna ever pay us a retainer. It's just never been like that. I don't see that practice changing. But you can, it's always been there. It's never been a thing. But here's what's cool now, guys. And I actually, so one of our agents so they filled this out, and the listing agent was offering 2.5% commission. And because they put 3% here, so this actually worked really good. My God, man, I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little sick, so the agent's name is not coming to me. That sent this offer, but it actually worked out really well for that agent. Why? Because the listing agent was offering 2.5%, and because they put here 3% that the buyer was going to pay total, the listing agent is going to pay him 2.5%, and the buyer is now in charge to cover the 0.5% to get to the 3%. Okay, so that's how that works. So basically how this works is you're telling the buyer that you're gonna pay me, my commission is gonna be 3%, but you're only gonna have to pay me whatever is left over from what the listing agent doesn't pay me, or the seller doesn't pay me. So that's how you have to explain it. What I want to do, kind of how we did like a deeper dive into this document. We'll do a deeper and more, and we'll do some role playing and practice it. But that's what this agreement essentially says. It says that the compensation due to you will be whatever percentage minus whatever I get compensated from a seller or a listing agent. So if I get seller compensated 2%, then the buyer would only have to pay me the remaining 1%. So that worked really well for, oh my God, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Whatever. I worked really well for him, because he ended up getting 3%. A few weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, he would have never done this. He would have just gotten 2.5%. But because he agreed to do this, he did this. The listing agent was offering 2.5%. He got the other 0.5. It was like, great, I'm getting my 3%. This was cool. Why haven't I done this before? Like,
Vic, quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. So if we get a comeback from the buyer, like, oh yeah, but what happens if, if the seller doesn't want to pay you anything? How do you think we should respond to that?
great question. So the idea is, so this is when you got to get real with the buyer. And you have to talk to them and say, number one, we could always negotiate that down. Okay. We could always, everything's negotiable. We could always change at a future time. I do this because I'm trying to get, the 3% commission from the seller. So the way you have to handle that is let's be real, you're gonna have to have possibly conversations with buyers that says, hey, if a seller will not pay commission, then the reality is that I cannot show you that property, because there's no compensation for me in that. So you have to have a conversation with a buyer. What are they willing to compensate you? Okay, maybe they'll tell you, Juju, 3%, that's very steep for us, but maybe we can compensate you 1%. Maybe we can compensate you 1.5%. I could see a
Victor,
buyer,
so-
I could see a buyer being able to be okay with that, for you to represent them. If you do a great consultation, you do great at doing your explaining your value and things like that. Now, so later on, you can go and amend this. You can modify it. That's fine.
Okay, got it.
But if
Thanks.
they're not but if the buyer says, Juju, I cannot pay you anything, and you have a situation where a seller's not paying any commission, then I can't show you that property, you know? And if they're interested, they have to kind of go on their own and all right, go on your own and work with the seller directly because they're not offering any commission. It's kind of the same thing now. I mean, that doesn't change. That you have for sale by owners nowadays that don't. How do you deal with a for sale by owner that says no, I'm not paying any commission to any realtor. I'm not working with realtors at all. Same thing.
But
Yeah, just good luck.
I actually have a.
Yeah.
Again, because you were saying you should send this with your offer. I actually think you shouldn't. Because if you send it, obviously the listing agent is gonna see that your buyer is willing to pay up to 3%. So they're gonna.
But here's the thing, but we have to, they know that we have it signed because we're now forced, and our rules say that in order for us to show properties to a client with few various exceptions, like open houses and stuff like that. But if we are calling a listing agent, scheduling a showing, and we're gonna show it, we need to have a buyer brokerage agreement signed with that buyer.
Yes, that I understand, but not send it to the listing agent.
But I know what you're saying. Oh, because they're gonna know. But beforehand, we already know that they're willing to give a seller contribution.
But so what, unless they.
How do we find out how much?
You gotta ask the agent. You gotta ask the agent how much of a seller contribution is your client giving. So remember, the way it kind of will work is we're not gonna call it a commission. We're gonna call it a seller contribution. But it's a seller contribution towards your buyer's closing costs that essentially goes towards this expense or your commission. But we can ask on the MLS, it'll say is seller, it'll say what we just did. Seller to buyer incentives, yes. How much? We need to find out how much.
At what point do we ask that question of how much when we send in the offer with the
Any
composition?
moment. Yeah, and no, I would when I schedule a showing, when I speak to the agent, when I text them, I would do it like that.
Okay.
So you can wait if you want to send the offer. I mean, it's up to you. You can wait, but I would do it like that right away. So, you know, I go back to, you know, my experience in commercial real estate. In commercial real estate, they don't put the commissions out. So I'll usually, it's not the first question I'm going to ask, but if I call a commercial agent, I say, hey, I'm calling about your warehouse. I'm interested. I have a client interested in seeing it. I want to know, does this warehouse, my clients has a t-shirt business, so they're going to be printing t-shirts. Does this work for them? What's the zoning there? Are they allowed to do this? Okay, cool. Oh, by the way, how much is commission are you guys offering on this? Similar to that. So you will call and you might ask, hey, my client's interested in the property. When is it available to be shown? Awesome. And let me ask you guys, I see on the MLS you put seller to buyer incentives. Yes. How much in incentives, what percentage are they giving? Let's see what they say. So I would ask it right then and there, but if not, and sometimes I know you guys don't get to speak to these agents up front. In those cases, then you would have to just send your offer with your buyer compensation, 3%, and let them come back and see what they say.
Just send both of them, so we gotta send that one you're showing now and the other one as well.
What
is this one?
This is buyer. So this is the buyer compens. This is for sure. You have to send the other one because the other one is what guarantees your commission.
Yeah.
This one is a buyer brokerage agreement, which is now required, which I don't know how it's being policed. I told you guys, like, nobody's asking, like, the association does not have, maybe in small associations in the middle of nowhere, but in Miami with, I forgot how many thousand realtors we have like 60,000 realtors. There's no way they're going to pay attention to us. They can't.
Police, I just think that if an issue arises, that's what I'm saying.
Right. But the compensation agreement, this has to be shown at some point because the compensation agreement says that whatever I'm giving you can't exceed what it's on your buyer brokerage agreement.
So like what she was saying earlier, like in the sense that you're telling your buyer, okay, 3%, but then you send that to the listing agent, he's gonna go back to his seller and be like, oh, they're willing to pay their agent 3%, so you don't have to pay so much on your side, I guess, right? Like,
Okay,
so
But-
then you're like, how do you maneuver that, because you don't want your client to pay so much, we could get it out.
so then maybe we go with, let's not send it up front. So let's not send it, let's hold off. At some point, I would imagine they have to ask. Again, it's weird. I've just, in our industry, guys, there's never been a situation where I need to provide something signed between me, like I've never shown a buyer's agent my listing agreement. You know, like that, we don't do that, it's not practice, it's kind of this, how are they gonna police that? I think ultimately what might happen is that we don't show it, no, I think you're right, well. Oh my God,
I
this
know,
guy,
it's a
this
lot.
guy, no, this guy, so, let me see, no, he's not on the call. No, he's not on the call, but he didn't provide the buyer brokerage agreement. And I don't know if they're gonna ask him for it, so, I don't know.
I think
So-
personally, I wouldn't provide it unless I already know and see on paper how much the seller is providing.
Okay,
And then
Alright.
at that point, I'll provide it because then I have already documented how much they're providing.
okay, good.
Go off on the agreement real quick?
Yeah.
So the part where it says, locations and stuff, okay, type of property and location, so you're obviously not gonna do one for every single property you show. So to generalize it, all of Broward County, all of Miami-Dade
Yeah.
County, like.
Yeah, so that's exactly how you fill this out. So you wanna be as broad as possible.
I would
You
say
wanna
only
be a-
properly shown.
You wanna be, no, you just need to be location, be very broad. Yeah, Miami, Broward, West Palm. Why? Because, yeah, single family townhouse condo. You wanna be very broad, because what if you put a city, but they buy in the city next, yeah, you know, so you wanna be broad. So you wanna put the counties essentially to cover everything. Yeah, location, put counties. So, and then type of property, put all single family condo townhouse. Yeah, put everything.
Narrow termination one too? Where the buyer needs to sign, hey, I'm no longer working with you. and I'm no longer-
On this one,
On anywhere, it
I
says
mean-
there. I don't even know, so it says.
so this,
You have a contract.
so the buyer can cancel this, guys. They can cancel this at any point. Sorry.
How? They just tell you, hey,
Written notice.
you-
Yeah,
It's in the top where it talks about releasing.
It just says it.
no,
Okay, there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how you brought up, but it's being. council.
yeah, and you can put a cancellation fee here. Which, if you have if you do a thorough consultation and you're gonna be putting, like, they're gonna be working with you and you articulate your value to these people, you could probably put here a good, $250, $500 at least for a cancellation fee.
Yeah, and I'd say, hey.
Guys, this is meant to level up like our professionalism. Like we need to, like, a lot of people hear, oh, I'll just put zero. No, bullshit. Like, articulate your value, explain to them why you're the best agent that you need to work with, and put out, $500 cancellation fee there. Like, hey, if you cancel, like I'm getting to work for you. I'm working. Like I'm not sitting around not doing anything. I'm working for you on your behalf.
Like a lawyer. Get a retainer,
Yeah.
cancellation fee, you need to sign this, you need to sign that, oh, I can't represent you.
I feel like that would make them take us more seriously.
Yeah.
We gotta wear suits and shit, you know?
Yeah.
Coming over here with 17 documents.
So I have one-
And I'll go and I'm gonna do a video on like how to fill this out thoroughly. A lot of this stuff here, guys, it's like you leave it blank.
One question.
Yeah.
One last question. So all I know, the agreement that you have with your buyer before you show them the first property, which is this document, you're basically agreeing that the buyer is basically agreeing. Let's say you put 3%, you don't want to work for anything less. Let's say you put the 3%. Your client is basically signing that there's a risk that they're gonna pay that 3%.
Yeah, but I would just talk to my client straight up and I would tell them, like, if I'm not able to get that compensation from the seller, we'll renegotiate
Okay.
at some point. I would just tell them that, be straight up. You
But
can't expect a buyer to pay. I mean, unless I just don't see. I don't see a buyer. I mean, imagine, you're buying a $500,000 home. That's 15 grand. A buyer has an extra 15 grand to pay you. No, sorry.
You scroll up, what's the name of this? Get it on here and put it.
So exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, but use the one that says with consent to transition to transaction broker.
Yeah.
Which if by any chance that buyer, all that is if the buyer, if you have the listing, you're able to represent both.
So it's like putting. You always do the kind that look.
Yeah, I always do with consent to transition. You can do the single agency one. But then it just means that if you have the seller, or it actually means if you or anybody in your brokerage has the listing, then you need to do the consent to transition to transaction broker. Then you need to become a transaction broker.
Just right off grid.
Yeah.
We'll come back and go from there.
In
Well, if
case,
you do
in
single,
case.
the one with single will become.
Yeah, some agents single agency because then you just this is you are a single agent here, but you're agreeing to so it exists just like how the no brokerage one exists when nobody uses that. You know.
The seller gets pissed at their own listing agent, they don't wanna work with them, then they wanna work.
Yeah. Yeah,
with
good.
You go back to the beginning, so I can download all those files we have there.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of these,
All that fits too.
yeah. So these are the documents, guys. Compensation agreement, seller's broker to buyer's broker. I don't think the one that's seller to buyer's broker is going to become the norm. I could be wrong on these guys, but again, this is new to everybody. So this is new to everybody, and there's so much amongst realtors, there's a lot of disagreements and things like that and opinions. So we'll see what sort of becomes the norm over the next couple of weeks.
And what's the last one? Have you gone to the last one?
Yeah, the listing agreement. That was the one I did first. The exclusive right of sale listing agreement. Yeah. You know what's another thing that no, never mind. I'm not gonna put it in.
I'll take that pic and then I'll delete it. And save this under NRA.
So little by little, we'll figure out about when. All we know is that we have to do that buyer brokerage agreement, which I think, guys, it's a great opportunity for you to do a full-blown buyer's consultation and be able to like really tell the buyer what are the benefits of working with you as a real estate agent, what is everything that you provide. If you're not sure what is everything you provide, we'll do more training on that, guys. Over the next few weeks, we're gonna do trainings on articulating our value for buyers, articulating our value for sellers. So you can know, okay, this is everything that I'm supposed to like do and then offer more. Like, I don't know, like maybe for your buyers, you have a partnership with a moving company that, you know, gives them a percentage off. Oh, this is a great value of working with me too. You get 50% off working with ABC movers. I don't know, you know, you just have to become valuable to your buyers. So you gotta have your value proposition, and that could be, doesn't necessarily have to be everything I tell you. It could be things you come up with yourself as well. So I want you guys to really, really think that and really think of what ways you can, you know, stand out from all the competition. A lot of realtors are scared of this, guys. Don't be scared of it. It's not a huge deal. It's just gonna be the new normal. Before, you know, in 3 months, it's just gonna be like muscle memory. It's gonna be like, okay, this is what we do now, you know? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I missed. The other thing that it kind of popped into my head, and I was like, I don't even want to bring it up because it's irrelevant, because I know how much you guys hate rentals, but I was like, oh, what's gonna happen with rentals? I haven't even thought about rentals. But whatever. I'm assuming it's gonna stay the same. But I'm assuming they're gonna take. I wonder if rentals are gonna keep commissions since the lawsuit was really about buyers and sellers. Maybe for rentals, they actually keep the commission field. I haven't heard. So I would assume that maybe they're gonna keep it. So we don't have to worry about that.
Okay, are we gonna get our listings grandfathered in, or is it still gonna take?
Okay, so that's a great question. So I've read this plenty of times. So as long as you guys get under contract prior to the 17th, they have to honor whatever was on the MLS. My recommendation is just do a printout or a screenshot of it and save that somewhere just in case. But anything you have under contract prior to the 17th will be honored. To what the commission on the MLS.
After the 18th, is it gonna disappear?
Yeah, the 17th. The 17th is the day that disappears. Anything you get on the contract the 17th, it doesn't matter what it said before. But you know that what it said, so you probably have an idea if they're still willing to offer that same commission. Yeah,
Because the agreement that you already have with the seller is still in place.
yeah,
That won't get, it won't get.
yep. All right, guys, so that's kind of, again, like, don't feel scared, don't feel a little uncertain. There's a little bit of we'll figure out what the best practices are as we go. You know, like I was listening to a realtor speak that's been in the business much longer than I was, and they were talking about how when short sales became really, really like crazy, a lot of people were trying to figure out like what's the best practices with short sales and things like that. And it's kind of similar to this. Like we they didn't know at the time, but little by little, the market sort of figured out, and the realtors in the market figured out what's the best practice and how they kind of want to be the norm. So that's gonna happen little by little. Eventually, everybody will just kind of adapt and take lead, and then we'll be all sort of doing 99% of the realtors will all be doing the same sort of pattern, kind of how we do now. You know. So, any questions? Anything else? Any questions on the chat? On the Zoom? All right. I think we're pretty clear. So, guys, next week, I want to have a training with you guys about sellers and your listings, because we have a lot of listings right now that were, I don't know, in my opinion, they're staying on the market a little longer than usual. So I want to really talk about servicing the listings and what to do to work with sellers to reduce price, having those conversations. So it's not necessarily on how to get listings or how to have that listing presentation, but it's kind of like once you have it listed, what are all the things you could be doing to market it, and how you should be handling the situation to, like, you know, if you need to have price reduction and things, because I've been getting a lot of calls from you guys sort of asking for a little bit of advice on that. How do I have this conversation with my seller to reduce the price? What should I reduce the price to? How do I know when to reduce the price? Things like that. So on Wednesday, we'll do a training on that. And then the following Wednesday, we'll probably bring it back to the whole, you know, buyers and having a buyer consultation and having your value proposition for buyers. So if you guys have any questions, again, this is a great opportunity. Again, just level up our professionalism. It's just gonna be whoever can adapt to this. And great, if there's realtors that don't adapt to this, get them out of the business. Awesome. That's more food on the plate for us. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And I think that, you know, as long as we have a positive outlook and, you know, we know what we're doing, we're gonna be fine. All right. All right,
Vic,
guys.
I have a
Thank you guys
question.
for
Victor,
coming by.
Victor,
Oh, yeah. Who's
can you hear
that?
me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Carlene, really
Hey,
quick.
Carly.
So I was looking through our firm's listing with your permission and everyone else's permission, just so I can stay active. Is it okay if I just repost everyone's listing on my social media to try to get some?
Yeah, listen, I see you guys, and I'm sorry, I should probably step into the chat when you guys are asking that. Like, I encourage everybody to share everybody's listings. Yeah, nobody, I don't think anybody in our brokerage will tell you no. You know, we're all about collaborating. We're all about. I think it's polite to ask. I think it's cool that some people ask. It's polite that you ask, but I'll be honest with you, nobody's ever gonna be upset that you share a listing. So just whatever one of our listings, you know, we want to share, we want to put it out there. It's more eyes on it. Is it maybe it leads to a buyer, maybe it doesn't, but you know, we just any exposure is great.
Share them all.
Share the Cape Coral one.
Share them all, yeah. Share that Cape Coral.
Share.
I did this the Cape Coral one. I have a few because I used to live out there, and a few potential, but nothing serious yet. So hopefully.
All right. But share them, because sharing them is just going to show your followers that you're active
Yeah.
and that you're in the business. That's what you want, you know. You wanna let people also know that you're active, you're moving, and you're promoting things. So that's great.
Does anybody, can you ask the chat, if anybody has a vacant,
Have what?
property?
Does anybody have a vacant property on the Zoom? A vacant listing? Vacant listing.
Any rentals?
Any vacant listings? No, nobody's saying anything. But you can look on the MLS. I mean, generally, if you see that there's no furniture in the listing, probably take it.
Doesn't she can also do she wanted to stay active, so she can go open house.
Oh, yeah, you could do that too, Carlene. You could like, if you want to do open houses, go on the MLS, see if there's any vacant listings, by looking at the pictures. And then there's also a field there that says vacant or occupied. But
Okay.
if you see it's vacant, ask the agent, hey, I see you have a vacant listing. Do you mind if I do an open house over the weekend? Stuff like that. And then let me know
Okay,
if you
and
need,
what about
we have open house
recording?
nights here in the office.
What about recording for content? Because I see I get more feedback when I post those type of, just instead of just a listing, when I do an actual walkthrough and videos, I get a lot of feedback for that.
Yeah, or just ask them, hey, can I just do a video? I just want to do I just want to do a video of your listing. Can I do that? Absolutely. And you can do that with
Okay.
anybody. I mean, yeah, in our brokerage, outside our brokerage, but usually if it's on Lockbox and an agent doesn't have to be there, sure, you know. You got that? No, I don't know if I lost you. You there?
I'm here. Yes,
All
I
right,
got it.
so
Thank you
yeah,
so much.
absolutely, do that, okay? All right, guys, so we'll keep in touch. Monday mornings, guys, if you want to jump into Cafecitos with Vic, 9:30 a.m. If you guys need help, if you guys, want to talk about any subjects, I usually go on there from 9:30 to 10 a.m. And I just kind of talk about whatever subjects, whatever's, whatever's going on. Last week, I think we were talking about like rates or something. So, because rates were kind of creeping down, which rates have gone down a little bit. So, I'm excited about rates going down. So rates going down is a good thing, guys. That means hopefully we get more buyers out there shopping. So that's good for you guys that have listings. And if you have any buyers who at what point were a little bit thrown off by high rates, right now might be a good time. Talk to your lenders and see what rates are at. But from what I've heard, rates took a dip over the last, couple of days. So check out, see where things are at with that. I gotta also follow up on that. All right. All right, guys. Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend. Happy Friday. And then I'll see you guys next week, Wednesday or Monday morning. All right. Bye,
All right,
nerds.
Victor, feel better.
All right, Micah. Thank
Bye,
you for
everyone.
listening. Bye, Juju.
Bye, thanks.